Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. We're continuing on with the number 4 Buck series today, and yep, I know it's been probably close to 2 months by now since the last installment of the number 4 Buck series, but you know what, that's okay. Sometimes we just forget about stuff for a while, but we're continuing on now. I believe I have 4 of the 8 gauges that I have up already. I think there's still 410, 32, what I'm doing now, 16 and 10 gauge left. So I guess be on the lookout for those. Those of you that read the title of this video know that we're doing 32 gauge today. 32 gauge is an odd little thing. It is better than a 410 in almost all aspects. Much bigger board, 52, 0.526 versus 0.410. So naturally it will have a better pattern. You can get up to 7/8 ounce of lead in here with little gunpowder, but I typically stick to 3/4 ounce or less. Today I'm doing a 1/2 ounce, which is the standard payload for 32 gauge. Yeah, it's equivalent to a 410, which is weird. Much bigger shell, but it is loaded to a much higher velocity for those of you that are interested in the 32 gauge. I know I am. The other load we're doing is a 3/4 ounce load, 15 pellets of number 4 Buck. And this one, the 1/2 ounce load, we're only getting 10. And yeah, that's not very many pellets, but at close range, say for 2-legged predators, then it's probably a pretty good load. Or for coyotes at 25 yards and in. Again, it's not very many pellets, but it is a small bore shotgun. Personally, if I was going to use Buckshot in 32 gauge, I'd be sticking 2 or 3 395 cal 5-aught buck in here, or some quad buck. Even double-aught works if you put it inside the wad and roll crimp it. In theory, you should be able to get 6 double-aught pellets in here with buffer, but that's a topic for a different day. Anyway, how about we get started actually loading this thing? We need 12 grains of green dot. The recipe, the load data calls for 12.5 grains, but I'm using buffer in this load, so I'm using just straight 12 grains. So the wad I'm using is the SG32 wad. I got these from Ballistic Products. This is the only commercially available 32 gauge wad, at least that I know of. If you guys have seen a different one, let me know, but I've looked and looked and looked for a long time. This seems to be the only commercially available 32 gauge wad. And it's not really a very good one. The shot cup only holds 3/8 ounce of lead, but what can you do? I wish that there was TPS wads available for the 32 gauge. That would be a huge, huge plus over this wad right here. I'm actually using this one. This is what I just showed you a second ago, but you guys can see what I've done. I've cut off the shot cup and the first little section above the ladder-shaped section here. And that's just so we have enough room for proper crimp. I'm just roll crimping these today. I'm not going to fold crimp them like I normally do, but once that's in there, we need 1 section, or 2 sections, of the 32 gauge nitro card. These come in sections of 3. I'm just taking off 2 of them, leaving 1. You can use this one here for a an overshot card, but what I'm actually doing is using the bottom of the shot cup for an overshot card. Alright, so now that we have those 2 sections in place, we need a Mylar wrap. That's optional. I'm using a Mylar wrap though because in my experience, number 4 Buck likes to shred hulls if you load it conventional like this. No shot cup. So my advice would be to use a Mylar wrap. This is the Ballistic Products My Slim Mylar. Just roll it up. Just like that. Roll it up, stick it in your hull, it'll unroll itself. I'm using 10 pellets of my tumbled and polished hard cast number 4 Buck. Made these using the Lee 18 cavity mold. Stacked by 2s. And 10 pellets of that number 4 Buck stacked by 2s comes up right to where it needs to be for a nice roll crimp. Buffer is optional here. I'm using Ballistic Products original buffer. Just cover the top row of pellets about 3/4 way. A little bit more. That looks like it's got it right there. just like that. Again, I'm using part of the wad, the bottom of the shot cup, as an overshot card here. I'm using the Ballistic Products roll crimp tool here, 32 gauge of course. Let's give it a roll. A little bit more. Kind of just letting the weight of the drill do it for me. I'm not really pushing down very hard at all. And here's how it looks. It ain't the best, but you know what? It could be a lot worse. It's not horrible. I'll take it. So for our next one, this is going to be a 3/4 ounce load, total payload. We need 20 grains of Hodgdon little gun. So there we have our 20 grains. Now we need to ditch right here to this wad. Basically get rid of half the wad. Simple enough to do. Just like that. Okay, so in this load, you can get by with using a Mylar wrap, but it is kind of tight. Normally, I just stack them by 3s and hope and pray don't shred the hull. But I have close to 1,000 of these by now, so I'm not really worried about losing 1 or 2 here or there. Not really a huge concern. But we have our tumbled and polished number 4 buck again. Again, stacked by 3. And our 15 pellets of number 4 buck comes up right to where we need it to be for a good crimp. And again, buffer is optional, but I'm using original buffer here. Just covering the pellets. I accidentally spilled a little bit there. That's okay. And just so it doesn't go to waste, I'm using that last section from earlier of a 32 gauge nitro card right on top as an overshot card. Just like that. Plenty of room left to roll crimp it. If you don't put the overshot card on, you can actually fold crimp this just fine, which is what I normally do with this load. But to fold crimp 32 gauge shells, I need my 20 gauge press set up right here, and I just realized I have my 20 gauge press set up. I just filmed a 20 gauge video too. You guys probably seen it. 1.5 ounce turkey load here. I don't know how that one slipped past me, but it did. And that one actually came out pretty good. Pretty even. You guys probably know this by now, but I really like 32 gauge. That little Stevens small frame I have, single shot, it is a great little shotgun. It generally patterns pretty well with whatever we stuff down it. That gun is just, every time we shoot it, it exceeds our expectations. We shot clays with it once before, and it absolutely busted clays, just like a 28 gauge will. You wouldn't think it, but number 9 shot out of a 28 gauge standard 3/4 ounce load, it absolutely destroys clays. Me and Josh and one of our friends were actually out a couple weeks ago shooting some clays, and his name is Cody. He fell in love with the little single shot 28 gauge I have. He's wanting to get one himself. That thing was, it was a nightmare for clays. It was breaking them better than the 12 gauge was. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the number 9 shot, and the 12 we were using 7.5. Maybe just more pattern density blew apart the clays better. They were only 15 yards out in the sky, so that's probably what it was, but it was absolutely just dusting the clays. And the 32 gauge, it does the same. It blows them up pretty good, better than you would ever expect them to. We've done a couple 32 gauge versus 410 videos, and the 11/16 ounce payload, standard 3-inch 410, in the 32 gauge, it crushed the 410, like by a long shot, severely outperformed it. I wish 32s were a lot more popular than they are now. 110, 120 years ago, 100 years ago even, the 32 gauge was a standard catalog gun. You could just order one if you wanted it, but those days are long gone. Finding a 32 gauge in 2023 is next to impossible. It took me 3 years of seriously looking almost every single day to find my 32 gauge and my 24 gauge. I also have a rifle barrel 32 gauge. It's an H&R topper. I believe it's a model 158, but technically it's a tranquilizer gun, you know, used in the veterinary field, but it's through and through just a rifle barrel 32 gauge shotgun. which is really cool. I use a 505 or 50 cal diameter slug for those guns, generally around a half ounce or a 0.55 of an ounce, and that gun likes that weight of slug. Speaking of that gun, the rifle barrel 32, you guys will be seeing a video with it shooting some slugs, Mr. Hollow Point slugs, at the range sometime hopefully soon. We kind of put that one on the back burner to focus on the 12 gauge slugs because, well, we just have a pile of 12 gauge slugs sitting around to get to, and what you guys have seen isn't even scratching the surface of the amount of 12 gauge slugs that we have to test at the range, which is awesome. So everybody that sent us the 12 gauge slugs, thank you. We really appreciate it. It's letting us do videos that we normally would not be able to do. But anyway, yeah, expect some 32 gauge Mr. Hollow Point slugs soon. But anyway, guys, we want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you got any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section down below. We will get back to you. We have a Patreon, if you want to go check that out. It's as low as $1 a month, and every penny we get goes right back into the channel. You get early access on there, to content, sometimes several weeks early. Range videos are several weeks out sometimes. We also have an Instagram. It's at The Shotgun Scientist. The link to that will also be in the description below, as well as a link to our Rumble channel, where we post stuff that we can't really do here on YouTube, as well as all other content that we do. But until next time, guys, you take it easy. We'll see you in the next one.